Before every candle forms, there is silence. Before every decision, there is thought. And before every trade, there is a mind full of stories, fears, patterns, and beliefs. You see, trading isn't just about charts and numbers. It's a mirror reflecting who you are under pressure. Every hesitation, every impulse, every victory, and every collapse. This is where the real work happens, not in the market, but in the mind behind it. Because until you master your psychology, you will keep reliving the same emotional cycle: fear, hope, greed, regret. But the moment you begin to understand yourself, the market begins to change. Not because it's different, but because you are. Welcome to Mind Over Markets, where we explore the inner landscape of trading psychology and the art of mastering yourself before mastering the market. You sit in front of your screen, 5 losing trades in a row. The numbers blink back at you, red, relentless, unforgiving. And in that quiet moment between anger and hope, a whisper slips into your mind. It's due to turn around. It can't keep going against me. Next one has to win. But that whisper is not intuition. It's not experience. It's not logic. It's the gambler's fallacy, the illusion that probability owes you something. It's the same voice that's destroyed traders, gamblers, and decision makers for centuries. The voice that convinces you that the past has control over the next spin, the next trade, the next candle. And it feels so right, because your brain is wired to see patterns even when none exist. You want to believe the market is fair, that after pain comes reward, that after red there must be green. But the market is not fair. It is not emotional. It does not remember. Every trade, every moment, every tick is a coin flip that forgot all the flips before it. You see, the human mind hates randomness. We crave order, predictability, justice. We want to believe that the universe keeps score, that luck balances out, that suffering earns redemption. But trading isn't karma, it's statistics. And the market doesn't care what happened to you. This is the hardest truth for a trader to accept, that your last 10 trades mean absolutely nothing to the next one. Your account might be bleeding, but the probability of your next setup hasn't changed a single bit. That is the essence of the gambler's fallacy, the belief that outcomes self-correct, that losing streaks must end, that winning streaks must fail. But probability is heartless. It doesn't care how many times you've fallen. It doesn't care how much you need to win. It doesn't care how long you've suffered. And yet our minds, they fight it. We look for symmetry patterns, closure. It's how we survived as humans, by finding meaning in chaos. When ancient hunters saw patterns in the stars, they found direction. When traders today see patterns in candles, they find comfort. But comfort is not truth. And when comfort meets money, comfort becomes danger. Because this illusion that it must turn around soon makes you size up on a losing streak. It makes you revenge trade. It makes you gamble under the disguise of logic. You stop following your plan, you start following your emotions. And in that shift from data to drama, you lose everything you built. Let's take an example. Imagine a trader named Alex. He's been following his strategy for months, disciplined, patient, consistent. But this week, nothing works. 5 losses in a row. The setups look perfect, but every one of them hits his stop. He stares at the chart, breathing heavy, convincing himself the next one will finally win. He doubles his position. "I'm due for a win," he whispers. The next trade hits stop loss again. And just like that, the illusion deepens. That illusion is the gambler's fallacy in its purest form. It's not greed, it's desperation for balance. It's the human need for justice applied to a system that has none. Because the market doesn't owe you a win for your losses, just like a coin doesn't owe you a heads after 5 tails. The odds are the same every single time. But your emotions refuse to believe that. They scream for control, for meaning, for fairness. They tell you it can't go on like this. And that's how you go on to lose even more. Gambler's fallacy isn't just a trading mistake, it's a psychological defense mechanism. It's your brain trying to reduce uncertainty by inventing patterns, by pretending the future can make sense of the past. But in trading, that illusion costs you money. Every great trader eventually learns this lesson. Your job is not to predict, your job is to execute. Your edge is not intuition, it's statistical independence. You must stop thinking in right or wrong, start thinking in expected value. You're not rewarded for being right. You're rewarded for following your edge over a long series of independent outcomes. Each trade is a data point, not a destiny. If you truly understand that you stop needing to win every trade, you stop chasing fairness, you stop demanding balance, you become detached, calm, focused, because now you see the truth winning and losing are both temporary distortions in a long, endless line of probability. And the trader who survives is not the one who guesses the future. It's the one who accepts uncertainty over and over again without losing their center. When you reframe your relationship with probability, you stop reacting and start observing. You stop hoping and start measuring. You stop gambling and start trading. That's the first shift. It's not about charts or setups or indicators. It's about breaking the emotional addiction to fairness, to luck, to balance, because the market is not here to balance your emotions. It's here to expose them. And if you don't learn to master them, you'll keep reliving the same cycle: hope, loss, revenge, collapse. To win in the market, you have to first win against your own mind. You have to unlearn the human instinct to seek symmetry in randomness, to accept that 5 losses don't make the next one more likely to win, and 5 wins don't make the next one more likely to fail. Each trade stands alone. Each candle, each entry, each exit is independent. The moment you truly accept that your relationship with the market transforms, you stop fighting the randomness. You start flowing with it. You stop reacting to streaks. You start responding to structure. That is the beginning of real trading psychology, not controlling the market, but mastering your mind's reaction to it. The moment you stop fighting randomness, something inside you shifts. The anxiety that once drove your decisions begins to lose its power. You start seeing the market for what it truly is: not a battle of fairness, but a field of probability. You realize the charts don't have a memory. They don't know you. They don't care who you are, how many hours you've studied, or how badly you need this trade to work. They simply reflect math probability playing out in real time. But understanding probability is not the same as believing it. Because your logical mind might say, I know each trade is independent, but your emotional mind whispers, yeah, but this time feels different. That feeling is the root of all trading sabotage. It's the subconscious demanding control. And in trading, control is an illusion. Let's explore what happens inside you when you lose. You feel pain, not just financial pain, but the pain of rejection. The mind links that pain to meaning. It starts saying, I'm losing. Therefore, I must be wrong. I'm wrong. Therefore, I'm not good enough. And now you're not trading anymore. You're protecting your identity. The gambler's fallacy grows from that same seed, the refusal to accept randomness without personal meaning. You project stories onto probability. You turn data into drama. Every trader does it. Every human does it, because uncertainty threatens the ego, and the ego will do anything to escape it. So when you lose 5 trades in a row, your ego creates a story. The next one must win. When you win 5 in a row, it creates another. This can't last forever. Both are lies. Both are rooted in the same fear, the fear of not being in control. But probability doesn't respond to fear. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't compensate. It just unfolds endlessly, impersonally, objectively. So what does it mean to reframe probability? It means learning to see randomness not as chaos, but as structure, not as threat, but as truth. When you truly embrace probability, you stop asking, will I win this trade? And start asking, did I execute my edge? That's the mental shift that separates professionals from gamblers. Gamblers crave outcomes. Professionals crave consistency. You stop judging yourself by single trades. You start judging yourself by long-term accuracy. And suddenly the market stops being emotional because it's no longer personal. Let me say this clearly. You can do everything right and still lose. You can do everything wrong and still win. One outcome means nothing, but 1,000 outcomes tell the truth. When you start thinking in samples 20 trades, 50 trades, 100 trades, you transcend the emotional roller coaster of wins and losses. You begin to trust the math, not your mood. That's when you start becoming the house, not the gambler, because casinos don't care who wins one hand. They care about the edge over millions of hands, and that's how they always win. You must learn to think the same way. Your edge, however small, is your house advantage. Protect it, apply it, repeat it over and over again without emotional interference. That's trading psychology in its purest form. Not fighting the odds, but respecting them. Not predicting outcomes, but managing exposure. You see, the trader who believes in due outcomes is not trading. He's negotiating with probability. He's saying, market, I've suffered enough. You owe me now. But the market doesn't owe you. It doesn't even know you exist. When you stop expecting fairness, you stop being manipulated by your own expectations. You gain clarity. And clarity is power. In trading, clarity is not about knowing where price will go. It's about knowing how you will behave no matter where it goes. That's psychological independence. That's mastery. When you reframe probability, you begin to see losing trades as information, not punishment. You see winning trades as evidence, not validation. You no longer crave to be right. You crave to be consistent. And that shift, subtle as it sounds, is what transforms your entire experience as a trader. It doesn't mean you stop feeling emotions. It means you stop letting emotions own you. You feel the pain, but you don't react. You feel the fear, but you don't obey it. You feel the temptation, but you don't indulge it. Because now you operate from awareness, not instinct. You start asking better questions. Not why did this happen to me, but did I execute according to plan? Not how can I win back what I lost, but how can I stay aligned with my system? You stop chasing emotional balance and start cultivating statistical balance. That's what true detachment looks like. It's not cold. It's not robotic. It's peaceful. A calm rooted in understanding. When you think probabilistically, you understand that a losing streak doesn't mean your system is broken. It might simply be variance, the natural rhythm of randomness. And if your edge is real, the math will eventually favor you, not immediately, not emotionally, but inevitably. That's the difference between reacting and trusting. Gamblers react, traders trust. And trust doesn't come from hope, it comes from data, repetition, and discipline. From watching the numbers play out over time until your brain finally believes what your logic already knows, that no single trade matters. The irony is, when you stop caring about individual trades, you start performing better in each one. Because now you're not desperate to win. You're simply present, centered, clear. You start entering trades without fear. You start exiting without regret. You start accepting loss without self-hate. And in that mental silence, your execution improves naturally. This is the heart of trading psychology, not about being emotionless, but about being emotionally fluent, knowing how to feel without reacting, knowing how to lose without collapsing, knowing how to win without inflating your ego. Because the real edge in trading isn't your strategy, it's your state of mind. Every time you step into the market, you're not battling other traders, you're battling your own illusions. The illusion of control, the illusion of fairness, the illusion that outcomes have memory. Once you let go of those illusions, you become free. And when you're free, you start to see clearly. You start to operate from truth, not emotion, from probability, not hope, from discipline, not desperation. That's how you move from being a gambler to becoming a trader. You've heard it said before, trading is 80% psychology and 20% strategy. But until you live it, those words are just theory, because the real battle isn't on the chart. It's in the silent space between your thoughts. In that space, every trader meets themselves, and most of them flinch. The charts don't break you. Your own reactions do. The losses don't destroy you. Your attachment to them does. To master trading, you must learn to sit still inside uncertainty, to let randomness unfold without demanding comfort from it. That's what emotional detachment really means. It's not apathy, it's inner stability. So how do you build it? How do you train your mind to see clearly when your instincts are screaming? It begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't see. Start noticing your impulses, the subtle voices that whisper before every decision, the urge to double down after a loss, the hesitation after a win, the fear of missing out when price moves without you. Those are not market signals. They're emotional echoes. Every time you notice one and choose not to act on it, you grow stronger. You teach your brain that emotion is information, not instruction. You don't need to suppress your emotions. You need to understand them. When fear shows up, it's saying, I don't trust my edge. When greed shows up, it's saying, I don't feel complete without winning. When frustration appears, it's saying, I'm attached to a specific outcome. Each emotion carries a message. If you listen without reacting, you extract wisdom. If you react without listening, you repeat mistakes. Detachment begins the moment you stop identifying with the outcome. You are not your last trade. You are the behavior that produced it. Once you internalize that, the game changes. You no longer chase emotional closure. You no longer need the next trade to heal the last one. You start operating from structure, not survival. Structure is peace. It's knowing exactly what you'll do no matter what the market does. It's following process, not prediction. It's execution without emotional interference. That's why journaling matters, not just to record data, but to observe you. Every entry is a mirror showing you patterns in behavior, not just performance. When you write honestly, you'll start seeing that your biggest drawdowns rarely come from strategy, but from the moments when emotion took the wheel. Journaling turns unconscious behavior into conscious insight, and consciousness is the foundation of mastery. Now let's talk about belief, because no matter how logical you think you are, you will always trade according to your deepest beliefs, not your best intentions. If deep down you believe you need to win to feel worthy, you'll overtrade. If you believe the market owes you fairness, you'll revenge trade. If you believe your worth is tied to results, you'll self-destruct during every losing streak. The goal of trading psychology is to rewrite those beliefs, to move from attachment to acceptance, from emotion to equanimity. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding the rules of the game so deeply that you stop arguing with them. You accept randomness as the price of participation. You accept loss as the cost of doing business. You accept that uncertainty is permanent. And in that acceptance, you find peace. Peace doesn't come when you win. It comes when you no longer need to win to feel at peace. That's freedom. That's the point where the market stops controlling you. When you reach that place, Your trades become clean. Your risk becomes intentional. You stop needing the market to make you feel something because your emotional state no longer depends on external validation. You begin to operate like a scientist, detached, curious, calm. You observe outcomes as data, not drama, and you refine your process with precision. That's what real confidence feels like. Not arrogance, not hope, but grounded certainty in your process. Most traders think confidence comes from winning. It doesn't. It comes from consistency, from seeing yourself follow your plan again and again until your brain learns that discipline feels safer than impulse. Over time, that consistency rewires you. You start associating emotional calm with success. You start craving structure instead of thrill. You stop needing chaos to feel alive. That's when you've transitioned from trader to professional. Because professionals don't chase the market, they manage themselves within it. Let's reflect for a moment. Think about how much energy you've spent fighting randomness. How many hours you've wasted trying to predict what can't be predicted. What if instead you invested that energy in refining your execution, in sharpening your discipline, in mastering your reactions? The truth is, the market is the world's most accurate mirror. It reflects exactly who you are, not who you pretend to be. It reveals your impatience, your greed, your doubt, your ego. And it does so instantly without mercy, but always honestly. If you listen to that mirror instead of fighting it, it becomes your greatest teacher. Because every mistake is a message. Every loss is a lesson. Every reaction is a reflection. The question is not, can I avoid pain? The question is, can I learn fast enough that I don't repeat it? The market doesn't reward knowledge. It rewards self-awareness. The edge you seek is not on the screen. It's inside your psychology. Your charts show opportunity. Your mind determines whether you can capture it. And that's why trading psychology isn't optional. It's the foundation. You can't control the outcome, but you can control your state. You can't control the randomness, but you can control your reaction. You can't control probability, but you can align yourself with it. When you trade from that state, fear loses its grip. Greed loses its voice. Ego loses its power. You begin to trade from presence, from clarity, from peace. And in that state, you finally see what trading really is, a mirror of your consciousness. The market doesn't test your strategy. It tests your ability to stay conscious under pressure. It tests whether you can remain present when everything in you wants to react. That's the mastery few ever reach. That's where emotion turns into awareness, where fear turns into focus, where uncertainty turns into freedom. You'll still lose trades, you'll still feel fear, but it won't define you anymore. You'll watch it rise, you'll feel it pass, and you'll keep executing. That's true power. Not control over the market, but control over yourself. The gambler's fallacy dies the moment you stop seeking fairness from the market. It dies when you stop thinking in single outcomes and start thinking in probabilities. It dies when you stop reacting to randomness and start respecting it. That's when you reframe probability correctly. You stop asking, will I win? And start asking, did I follow my edge? You stop chasing compensation and start pursuing consistency. You stop gambling for balance and start trading with awareness. That's how traders are reborn. Not through strategy, but through surrender. Not through prediction, but through acceptance. Not through emotion, but through evolution. Because trading at its core is not about making money. It's about mastering yourself while money is on the line. And when you reach that state, the one where you no longer need to win to feel whole, the irony is you begin to win more often. Because you've stopped fighting the market. You've stopped fighting probability. You've stopped fighting yourself. You've finally learned to let go and let the math do its work. And in that surrender, you find freedom. Not the freedom that comes from profits, but the freedom that comes from peace. The freedom of knowing that you no longer trade to prove something you trade because it's an expression of who you've become. Calm, disciplined, detached, aligned. That's the real edge. That's the mind over markets, beyond outcome. There comes a moment in every trader's life when the charts go quiet, not because the market stops moving, but because you stop fighting it. You look at the screen, the same candles, the same lines, but they no longer provoke the same storms inside you. You're no longer chasing, you're no longer resisting, you're simply watching. And in that stillness, you realize something you missed for years. The market was never your enemy. It was never your savior. It was never about the trades, the wins, or the losses. It was always about you. It was the mirror showing you every part of yourself that you refused to see. Your impatience, your greed, your fear, your need for control. Every candle was a reflection of your own consciousness. That's why no strategy could ever save you until you faced yourself. Because the strategy was never the problem. The self was. You can study every indicator, every system, every setup, but until you master your reactions, you'll repeat the same emotional loops, different trades, same psychology. So you begin to understand success in trading is not about predicting markets. It's about mastering your internal weather. The storms will always come, the losses, the uncertainty, the chaos, but your job is not to stop the storm. It's to remain still inside it. That stillness is your real edge, because from that state, your decisions are clean, your risk is controlled, your perspective is wide. You start to see the market as what it truly is, a probability machine, not a morality test. It doesn't punish, it doesn't reward, it simply reveals. And when you see that clearly, you begin to play a different game. Not a game of money, but a game of mind. You start trading from awareness instead of emotion, from patience instead of pressure, from curiosity instead of fear. You realize that mastery is not about perfection, it's about repetition of truth. Executing your edge over and over again, not because you need to win, but because you've become the kind of person who acts with integrity, no matter the outcome. That's when trading becomes art. Every entry is a brushstroke, every loss a lesson in composition, every win a moment of harmony. The market becomes your canvas, your mind the brush, and discipline the color that gives everything life. You trade not to prove but to express, not to escape but to evolve. And slowly, without realizing it, you become the kind of trader who doesn't chase money. Money begins to follow your state of mind. Because markets reward alignment, not attachment. This is the paradox every trader eventually discovers. The less you need to win, the more you begin to win. Because when you release the need, you release the tension. When you release the tension, you allow clarity. And clarity sees what desperation cannot. The truth is, trading isn't about finding certainty. It's about finding yourself within uncertainty. Once you learn to stay calm when everything feels chaotic, you've already won. Because you've reached a level most never touch, the level where outcome no longer dictates peace. That's the freedom beyond probability, the place where you don't just trade the market, you understand it, because you've understood yourself. You no longer react to randomness. You respond to reality. You no longer demand fairness. You operate with faith in your process. You no longer seek validation. You rest in self-trust. And that's when the entire game changes. Because when your internal world stabilizes, your external results begin to align. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. The mind and the market, they move together. And when your mind becomes steady, the market stops feeling like chaos. It becomes rhythm. It becomes flow. That's the final lesson of the gambler's fallacy. The world doesn't owe you balance. The market doesn't owe you profit. but your mind owes you peace. And when you learn to find that peace within the chaos, you transcend the game entirely. You stop gambling for fairness. You start trading for freedom, the freedom to think clearly, to act decisively, to live calmly, to exist in a state where outcomes no longer define you. That's the ultimate edge. That's the real mastery. That's the mind over markets. In the end, trading isn't about predicting price. It's about predicting yourself. The charts will always change. The patterns will evolve. The market will rise and fall. But your mind, that's the constant you carry into every trade. So remember this. Your biggest losses weren't from bad setups, but from unobserved emotions. Your greatest edge isn't your strategy, but your state of mind. When you learn to trade from clarity, from calm, from presence, you stop gambling and start evolving. Because the real profit isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in discipline. It's measured in peace. It's measured in who you become when you stop reacting to the market and start responding to truth. You don't need to control the market. You only need to understand yourself. That's how emotion becomes awareness. That's how chaos becomes flow. That's how the mind rises above the market. This is your reminder: trade consciously. Think probabilistically. Live peacefully. You are the edge. You are the system. You are the mind over markets.